I'm Mrs. Carlson from Dillon Nature Center, and I'm coming to you right outside of the Taylor Shady Lane cabin. And I am here today to help you celebrate Arbor Day, and that's with Hutchinson area 4th graders. And being a 4th grader is super special because I only celebrate Arbor Day with 4th graders. So, what I want to know is, what is Arbor Day anyway? Have you heard of it before? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Arbor Day is a special day. And in fact, the word arbor means a shelter under vines or branches. And what I want to know is, what do you know that has vines or branches, especially branches? Can I give you a little hint? It's trees, right? Trees are going to have branches. So we're going to celebrate a day of trees, and that's what Arbor Day is. A special holiday just to set aside and plant trees and celebrate all things that are great about trees. So today we're going to talk about a few things that have to do with Arbor Day and trees. So in this short video, you're going to learn about the history of Arbor Day. You're going to learn about the importance of trees. Then we're going to talk about what you need to do in order to plant your tree, things you need to think about. Then we're going to tell you about how to plant your tree. Now, these things and these trees could not be possible without some sponsors. We had some sponsors that bought our trees for us, and we're going to give them to you. And so our sponsors this year are the Hutchinson Tree Board, the Hutchinson Recreation Commission, Papa John's of Hutchinson, and also Prairie Hills Nursery, which is right across the street from the Nature Center. So are you ready for this little video? Let's go! So the very first Arbor Day was held on April 10th in 1872 in Nebraska. Can you imagine 1872? That was a really long time ago. The idea of Arbor Day was thought up by a man named J. Sterling Morton and his friend Robert Furness, who was the governor of Nebraska. Mr. Morton didn't grow up in Nebraska, though. He grew up in New York and Michigan, where there was lots of trees around. Now, he lived in Michigan until he graduated from college, and then he married his wife, Caroline. On the day that he married his wife, Caroline, in 1854, he and his wife moved west to Nebraska. What do you think the landscape of Nebraska looked like when he moved there? Were there lots of trees around? Or did it look like this? You know, in fact, he found a sea of grass and very few trees in Nebraska. And back then, there were even fewer trees than there are today. Mr. Morton loved his trees. He was a lover of wildlife, and he loved nature. And when he went to Nebraska, he didn't see a lot of those things that he loved. And he knew trees were so beneficial for so many other different things. He knew that trees provide shade. Trees beautify the landscape and make them more lovely. Trees also can provide firewood. They can provide lumber, and there are all sorts of other benefits as well to trees. Well, he missed his trees, and he wanted to share his love of trees and beautify the landscape around Nebraska. So what he decided to do was propose a tree planting holiday. And he and Mr. Furness got the word out, spread it out in the newspapers, and so everybody in Nebraska decided they were going to join in. And on April 10th in 1872, the people of Nebraska planted 1 million trees on that day. 1 million trees, just in the state of Nebraska alone. Well, word got out after that there was this great thing called Arbor Day, and that's what they called it. And so other states decided that they were going to do it as well. And so today, Arbor Day is celebrated in all 50 states across the United States and other places in the world too. When you celebrate Arbor Day, it's going to depend on your climate and then what your state decides to do. In Kansas, we officially celebrate it on the last Friday in April. And in this year, it's going to be April 24th of 2020. It's Kansas's official Arbor Day. So when the pioneers moved into the grasslands of the Great Plains of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, they found a sea of grass too, and very few trees. Well, you know, we all need resources in order to live our lives. We need resources to build homes and for everything else. So what do you think the pioneers built their homes out of? Did they have trees so they can use the lumber to build their homes? No, they didn't. You know what they used? Grass and soil, and we call that sod. So they would cut out sod out of the soil, and they would stack them up like bricks to make their walls. And some of those houses would be big, some of them would be kind of small, really. Probably most of them would be small. And they would do the job. But would you like to live in a sod home? It probably stunk. It would probably be drippy in the rain, and probably bugs and centipedes and all kinds of crazy things would be crawling through your walls. But they did the job because those were the resources that people had around in order to build their homes. No trees means no lumber. So, you know what? People had to do some other things too in order to live. They needed to have something to heat their homes, and they needed some fuel wood in order to cook their food. So what do you think they gathered up to heat their homes? Did they use firewood? No, probably not, because there wasn't any firewood around, not a lot of trees. So you know what they used instead? Come with me over here. They collected buffalo chips. Oh my goodness! These are dry. Guess what those really are? You know what another name for that might be? It's poo. So the bison would go around and they'd go to the bathroom, it would dry, and then kids could collect this. Do you think this would be a great job for a fourth grader to go around and collect the bison chips? I think so. I would definitely do that if I was your mother. Okay, so life on the prairie was a lot different way back then. What do you think that Kansas looked like? What do you think Reno County looked like? What do you think Hutchinson looked like when people moved here? Did it look different? No, it was a sea of grass and very few trees were around. In fact, when Mr. C.C. Hutchinson founded our town in 1871, he did find a sea of grass, and in fact, there was only one tree, and that was near Avenue A in Maine. Can you imagine what Hutchinson looked like way back when in 1871? I know, I sure can't. Does it look like that today? I don't think it does. I think it looks a lot different. Now today, do our cities and towns and surrounding landscapes look like a sea of grass like it did back then? Without any trees? My guess is no. If you look around, you're going to see all kinds of trees everywhere. You're going to see them around your school, you're going to see them around your neighborhood, your homes, even Walmart parking lot. So when people moved into the Great Plains, they knew that trees provide so many benefits, like the shade, like lumber, like firewood, but there are all kinds of other things too that trees can do for us. Trees provide great health benefits. Love to be in nature, makes you feel so much better. Not to mention, trees are going to provide screening. So if you have a neighbor that has a junky backyard, or maybe you don't want to see a parking lot, you can plant some trees and it'll block the view. Trees can also help you in a lot of other different ways too. Trees can provide shade and cool the buildings and the sidewalks down below. Trees also will provide homes for all kinds of birds and animals and provide food for them and us as well. Trees also help to clean the air. Trees will take in some oxygen and some pollutants and make fresh, clean air. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit more detail. Hold on. All right, so let's look at a leaf. Here's a leaf from a bush. It could be a leaf from any old plant or a tree, in fact. Now, in order for a leaf to do any magic at all, it's going to need energy from that sun, that great big ball of gas in the sky. It's going to give energy to that leaf. The leaf is kind of like a factory. So what else is this leaf going to need to clean the air? It's going to need some stuff out of the air. It's going to need some carbon dioxide. And there's some little teeny tiny holes in this leaf. They're called stomata, and they open and close. And when they do that, they're going to breathe in carbon dioxide of the air and all kinds of pollutants that's in there too. Okay? So it's going to get up in that leaf. The cells are going to trap those pollutants, and out comes some stuff. What stuff is that? It's going to be oxygen. Okay? Now don't forget, this leaf is going to need some other things in that factory in order to make some oxygen. It's going to need some water that it's going to pull up from the roots as well. That energy, it's going to need that air, and it's going to make that clean oxygen. Now after that, it's going to make something else too. something else that this plant really, really needs in order for it to grow. It's going to make a simple sugar, and that's going to be used for the tree to grow, or the plant to grow. What is that process called where trees and plants make plant food? It's called photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis means put together. Everybody say it with me, photosynthesis. Okay? So leaves are very important factories. But trees are going to have some other parts as well. Let's look at all the parts of a tree, shall we? Okay, I'm going to pick this little tree up. This is a little tree seedling, kind of like one of the ones that you're going to get. In fact, you might get this little tree. This tree is going to have some stuff, some parts that grow down below the soil. I bet you know what those are. Those are called roots. Those roots do a couple of different things for the plant. It's going to anchor it in place, and then also it's going to suck up the water and the nutrients from the soil. They're kind of like straws. So they're going to go like this. Then what they're going to do is they're going to slurp it up the roots, and then it's going to get to this part right here. What do you call this part right here? I bet you know. It's called a stem. On a tree, we might call that a trunk. And this is a straw as well. So that straw is going to go from the roots, and then it's going to go up the stem. Up it goes, okay? Carrying that water up. Then, what do we have on the outside of our tree here? What do we call that? You know what it is? It's called bark. That bark is there in order to protect that tree from fire, from insects, from kids, from weed eaters, from getting all carved on, okay? So it's going to protect it. It's kind of like your skin. So as we go up our tree now, I'm going to go back to this little guy. It has some of these little things sticking out of it. What are those things sticking out that's attached to the stem? How about this tree right here? What are those things sticking out? Kind of like your arms. Those are branches, right? Branches are kind of like coat hangers, okay? And it's going to hold some stuff. Those branches, though, still a straw, okay? Going from the roots, up the stem, out to the branches, and finally it gets to what? And what do the branches hold? They're going to hold the leaves, and they might hold some other things as well. So finally, our water gets up to the leaves. On the end of our branches, what do you think we might have? Sometimes you might see some things, maybe like this, or maybe they might be closed. We call those buds, and those are going to be on the tips of the branches. And guess what those do? Those are going to grow from the tips, okay? So those buds might form a branch, might form a leaf, and it could also form some flowers over there. Okay? And so this tree right here's got some leaves formed on it, but we don't have any flowers right now, do we? We don't. Okay? But trees, often in the springtime, they're going to have flowers. What are those flowers for on a tree? Why are they there? Do they have a purpose? Sometimes they smell good. We love to look at them. They look really, really pretty. But there is a real purpose, because those flowers eventually they'll pollinate, and then they're going to fall off. When they fall off, something else is going to form in their place. And in that place, it might be a fruit of some kind. It might be a seed or a nut. It might look like this. This is a sweet gum ball. It has lots and lots and lots of seeds all over it. It might be something like this. Can you tell what that is? It's a walnut. And on the inside, there are going to be several seeds. So why would a plant have seeds anyway? They're going to have seeds so that that plant can grow more of its own kind, so it can reproduce. A tree might live 20 years, 50 years, 100, maybe 200 or sometimes longer, but a tree is eventually going to die. And before it dies, it wants to have some children, and it's going to make some seedlings. So if we had a walnut like this, what would it need in order to grow? It's going to need some sunlight, it's going to need some water, and it's also going to need some warmth in order to grow. Remember that warmth, it's going to need that. If we had a seed and we put it in the freezer, it's not going to grow, even if it had some light and some water. It's way too cold. It's going to need warmth. So that's why we see in the springtime, lots of different plants and lots of seedlings are coming up. Now I do want you to keep in mind one thing here. Your little tree seedling is going to be like this. It's nice and small. And it's going to grow, and it's going to grow, and it's going to get bigger. So the roots, all the time, every year, they're going to grow out further into the soil, deeper and further out. They're going to need room to grow. Your stem on your tree is going to get bigger and fatter around every year. It's also going to grow up vertically, taller every year. The branches are also going to grow out wider and further every year from the tips out every year. So when you're thinking about where you're going to plant your tree is going to need some room. It's not going to stay this little forever. Okay? So next, we're going to talk about what you need to consider before you plant your tree. All right, so I think we're about ready to plant a tree. So you might get a tree that looks like this in a bag that has a little tag on it. And there's some things you need to do before you actually put it in the ground. And the first thing you need to do is you need to get permission from your grown-up in order to plant it. So may I have permission to plant this tree? Right here? How about
yes.
right here?
As the superintendent of the Nature Center, I give you permission to plant the tree here
right
at the
here?
Nature Center.
Are you sure?
Let's plant it right here.
I don't think it's a good idea.
Why not?
You
this
know
looks
why?
like a great spot.
No, I think it's a bad idea. You know why? I want you to look up. Before you plant your tree, look up. Make sure that there are no power lines above your head. Your tree is going to get big and it's going to grow up in the power lines. So no power lines.
So we can't plant it here?
We're not going to plant it here. We're going to have to move either this way or that way. You want to plant about 10 feet away. Okay? The other thing I want you to do is look down in the ground. That might be hard to do, but I want you to imagine what's underground. You want to keep your tree away from sewer lines and water lines and gas lines. If you don't know where those lines are, you can call 1-8 or DigSafe, or you can call 811, and then they will come and locate those lines for you. So keep them away from those lines. The other thing you want to do is to keep it away from buildings, or you want to keep your tree away from concrete or sidewalks. Those sidewalks will buckle over time if you have the tree too close. So make sure you stay away a good 5 feet. You don't want a tripping hazard. Remember, those roots are going to grow. They're going to get bigger, fatter, and longer. And if it's too close to a sidewalk, you're going to have some problems then. Okay?
All right, let's go plant this somewhere else then.
Okay,
all right.
Let's do that. So I think we found a better location to plant our tree. We've looked up and there's no power lines, there's no sidewalks around. We've got a little bit of space for our tree now. So we started digging a hole.
No gas lines.
No gas lines.
Sewer line? Nope.
No sewer lines. Okay, we're good there. All right, so John has dug a hole. It's about 6 inches. It's about 6 inches deep and about 2 feet across. So you're going to need a shovel in order to dig your hole. Okay? And you want to dig it about as long as that root ball is, but you want it kind of a wide hole. Okay? Now, you've got your hole dug, so what you're going to do is you're going to grab your tree. John's going to do that for us. And you're going to hold it by the bottom. Okay? Hold it by the bottom. You don't want to hold it by the stem. If you do, that whole thing could just fall apart on you. So be sure you hold it at the bottom. Now I want you to keep in mind there is a bread bag with a tag that has your species on it. So you know what kind of tree that you have and how much room exactly it's going to have. We're going to give you more information on that.
This is a lacy oak.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to remove the bread bag and you're going to throw it away. Then what you're going to do is you're going to carefully peel back that carton. Or if you have a plastic carton, you can kind of just squeeze it and then you're going to be able to peel that off and then you're going to see the roots. So you see the roots exposed. Okay? So we've got some big roots there. Yeah, go ahead and spin that around. That looks good. What I like to do with the bottom is just kind of give it a squeeze, loosen that soil up and loosen the roots up. You don't want them all be stuck in that rectangle. You want to loosen it up and that will help the roots to grow. So just go ahead and get really, really aggressive with it if you need to. Okay, that looks good.
You don't want to hurt it.
It'll be all right.
Okay.
Roots are pretty tough. Okay, so get it all loosened up, and then you're gonna. I like that. Okay, that looks great. So then you're gonna put it back down in the bottom of your hole, and of course you want the green part up on top, and
Okay,
that's gonna need the sunlight. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so green part up. Okay, now your tree might be a little crooked like this one. It's going to straighten out over time. If your root ball needs to be a little crooked, that's okay, but you want that stem to be a little bit more straight. So then you're going to hold it with one hand, pretty straight, And you can take a ruler or even your shovel handle, and you want to be sure that that little tree is not too far down in the hole. So I kind of like to match it up and make sure where you start to see that stem is going to be right across the top. So you can lay that ruler horizontally across the top of your hole and make sure that it's good. Like John is doing, it's a little bit too deep, so he's putting a little bit more soil back in. He's going to straighten his tree back out. And then you can take that shovel handle or that ruler and make sure it's kind of even with the top of where that stem starts. Okay, that's looking pretty good. It might need a little bit more soil in it, but it's not too bad. Okay, there you go. Now, you're gonna go ahead and get that straightened up and then fill all of that loose soil around. Oh, I love that. Okay, so fill all that loose soil around. You can use your hands or you can use the shovel. You might have another person do that for you, or maybe you want to hold the tree and keep it up straight. Okay, John's doing a great job of getting that all done. Okay, so then just quickly fill that soil all around. Don't pack it too tight, okay? But give it all even in there. Okay?
Pack it tight?
Don't pack it too tight. No,
okay.
no. What's going to pack it in is some water. So grab a hose, or if you have a watering can with some water, you want to slowly put some water in there. Okay?
I have one.
A watering can. Okay. So slowly put the water in there. And you want to probably get a good gallon on it. Okay?
Is it slow enough?
That's good.
And all around the dirt, not just
all around the soil. And that'll help the loosened places and the air pockets, and that'll settle the soil. Now, when you get that done, if you see any roots exposed, you can cover it up with a little more soil if you have any left over. Now, you're not done. If you have leftover soil, you can make a little dike around your tree. So make like a bowl all the way around, and that's gonna help keep the soil in place. So you want it to be a bigger bowl. There you go, kind of spread it out. There you go, that looks better. Okay, so you don't want that soil packed up too high around your tree trunk. Remember, you want that kind of low. Okay, so now he's making a dike around it. Once you get all that done, you're gonna take some mulch, and I'm going to grab the mulch, and I'm going to put the mulch all over the top. Okay? I don't see any roots exposed, and you can grab any old leaves if you want to, if you have some ground up sticks, if you have some pine bark, I don't know, whatever's handy. Okay? It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And then you're going to cover all that up. That's going to help keep the moisture in over the summertime so it doesn't all dry out. Do you think you're done? You're not done. Okay, so next what you're going to do is you're going to water it one more time. So go ahead and fill the rest of that water in that hole. But you're still not done. What I want you to do is mark your tree. Let's say you have a little piece of flagging like this. Maybe you have a ribbon. I want you to put it next to your tree. Maybe you have something like this hanging around your house. And it could be something that was, I don't know, maybe it's a gas line tag or something. It doesn't matter. But I want you to put it next to your tree. I want you to identify that tree as your Arbor Day tree, because I can't tell you the number of kids who've told me when they got into 5th grade that their big brother ran it over with the lawnmower. The dog ate it, okay? Maybe somebody ran it over with their car. So when you go to plant your tree, make sure everybody knows this is your tree. Don't plant it in the middle of your soccer field. Don't plant it where your dog's gonna eat it or it's gonna get run over. Put it in a good spot. Oh, more marking the tree. Okay. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and plant that tree as soon as you can after you get it. Don't wait 2 months. Don't wait 3 months. Plant it as soon as you can. If you can get it in the ground in the next few days after you get your tree, that would be perfect. If you don't have an opportunity to do that, don't just go home and stick it under your bed. What I want you to do is put it on your front porch and give it a little bit of sun, but not too much blasting wind. Then what I want you to do is check the soil. So you're going to stick your finger down inside that soil where that tree was, and if it feels dry, give it maybe a half a cup to a cup of water, maybe twice a week until you have an opportunity to plant it. So do plant your tree as soon as you can. We're going to tell you more about how you can pick up your tree at a later time. Your teacher's going to have that information for you. So another thing I want you to remember is that you are going to get a tree sometime this spring because you are a 4th grader and we want to be sure that you have one. We do have those sponsors that purchased these trees so you can have one of your very own. And so that would be Hutchinson Recreation Commission, the Hutchinson Tree Board, Papa John's of Hutchinson, and Prairie Hills Nursery. You are going to get a packet that has their names and addresses and phone numbers on there. And then if you want to go ahead and send them a thank you note, we would love for you to send them a thank you note. So if you have any questions, feel free to call the Nature Center. The Nature Center's number is 663-7411. You can also email me at scarlson@hutchrec.com if you have any questions. So I wish you a very happy Arbor Day.
Yay!